I mentioned last week that applying the golden rule is hard. I find it difficult. And as I thought about that more this week, I tried to dig into my thinking. What makes it hard to apply the golden rule? And as I thought about it, I realized that one of the reasons that I think the golden rule is difficult is because at, at, at the surface, it almost seems that Jesus is giving us permission to be selfish. Focus on yourself, be selfish, and then apply that selfishness to your activities. And I think that is the farthest thing from Jesus' mind. And that would not at all be what he wants us to get from this. So if selfishness is not the focus, if Jesus is not saying, take your selfishness to a new level of application, then what is Jesus about? How can we take this golden rule and, as I'm suggesting, as we restart things, as we move back into our society, as we do more shopping, as we interact with people more, as we delicately try to navigate this challenging reopening of our country, of our location, our cities. What about Jesus' words can help us? And so I tried to dig deeper into myself and say, what is it that I would want people to offer to me in this restart that would be helpful for me to then offer to others? And I thought of 4 things, and you could think of others. There might be an excellent opportunity for conversation or discussion, maybe in your family, maybe with your spouse, maybe with a good friend, and just say, I want to take Jesus' words and I want to do them. How do you think we could apply the golden rule to our new restart in this COVID-19 pandemic? As I thought about that, there were 4 things that came to my mind that I think helped me. And the first one, as I thought about this, one of the things I want people to do is to understand why I'm doing what I'm doing and not to try to command me. I would like understanding, not commandment. It's very easy in our restart of things to be judgmental, to be angry, to say things or do things that are intentionally putting people in their place because we feel like they're doing something wrong. They're not wearing the mask they should wear. They're not keeping the distance they should keep. They're not handling social restrictions as they should. And I think Jesus would say to us, stop for just a minute and try to understand where others are coming from. We may not know how difficult it has been for that family to be confined at home. And now as they're beginning to open up, we realize we may not understand, but if we could understand, we would realize they're doing the best they can, and they're really doing pretty good. And we need to back off of our criticism. Let's try to understand each other and not command each other as we restart things after this COVID-19 pandemic is beginning to change, and we are now moving into a new way to deal with it. I think Jesus would say, the golden rule means you want to be understood, right? You want people to care about your perspective. Then you listen and you understand and you care about where someone else is coming from. A second thing that comes to my mind is I try to dig deeper into the golden rule and ask myself, what would Jesus want me to do? And that is, I think Jesus would want us to appreciate disagreement and not demand uniformity? Boy, that's hard. Can we appreciate disagreement instead of demanding uniformity? Even in my own family, there have been times that my kids, my adult children, have disagreed. My wife, a nurse practitioner, has some strong opinions about some of the healthcare issues, and as she's talked about that with some of our kids, there's been some real disagreement there. It's been challenging. Wouldn't it be easier if we all thought the same? Wouldn't uniformity be nice right about now? I think Jesus would say, wait a minute. We need to appreciate even disagreements. There's a lot of things we don't know about restarting life, about the effects of the novel coronavirus and how COVID-19 and that disease will affect people. We don't have all the answers. We don't know everything. There's going to be disagreements. Can we appreciate disagreement? I think we can, if we will practice to others what we want them to practice for us, understand where we're coming from, let us have disagreements, listen to what we're saying, even if we disagree. Let's appreciate the disagreements. In our church, we're going to meet this week, our church council, the group of leaders that we have in our church will get together, and we're going to talk about questions that we're going to think about in our restart, is shaping what we'll do next. And I expect there'll be disagreements. I remember back in March when this began to take place, there were disagreements in that the church council between people there and how we should handle it. There'll be disagreements again. Can we appreciate those disagreements? I think Jesus would say, the golden rule says we are going to have disagreements. Let's appreciate each other. And let's not demand uniformity. Let's understand, not command. Let's appreciate disagreements, not expect uniformity. A third thing that I notice as I look into myself and I say, what should I bring with me into this new phase of dealing with this pandemic? And that is, I think we should respect individual choices and not demand that everybody has the same position on everything. Can people make different choices and it's really okay? Are there freedoms that we should exercise even in the face of this pandemic and how we deal with it? I think Jesus would say, we all face individual choices. It's interesting to me that God gives us individual choices from the very beginning. One of the principles that is described throughout biblical history is that God gives people choices. The gospel, the good news that Jesus is the Savior, and if we will turn to Him, if we will turn back away from a godless life to a God-centered life, we can find Him and we can find the rescue that He wants to give us, that He has already provided. But we have a choice. God provides personal choice. Should we not give one another personal choices? Do we snatch away the responsibility of choice so that we can demand what we think should be done? I realize that living together requires a level of giving up some of our freedoms. We cannot have unbridled freedom. God never intended that either. His word gives us directions about how to live. But I'm suggesting that as we restart, as we face again working together, as we move back into more of a normal pattern of life, that we give one another the respect of personal choices and not demand that everything be done as we believe it must be done. A fourth principle that seems to me grows out of applying the golden rule in our current situation, in the things that we face right now, and maybe one of the most important things to do of all, is that let's remember humility, because none of us are perfect. Let's remember humility, because none of us are perfect. We're not going to do it all right. I'm not going to do it all right. We may make some choices that we will regret later. We may disagree with one another and find out that some people were wrong. We may seek to understand and not receive in return the understanding we desire. I get that. And I want to appeal that we remember to be humble. None of us is perfect. All of us need grace. All of us need to we need to remember that we don't know everything. All of us need to remember that we might be wrong. And let's approach this challenging time together with humility because of the golden rule. If all of us practice humility toward one another, remembering that none of us are perfect, and that we can work together even if we disagree, that we can understand one another better, that God has given us choices and exercising personal choice is important. I think the golden rule can help us at this very crucial time that we face together. Jesus said, you ask God, you seek Him, you knock on the door, and He is a good Father, and He will give you good things in response to your asking, to your seeking, and to your knocking. Will we ask Him for help and restarting our lives and protecting one another so that this pandemic will not suddenly blast us again? Will we ask? Will we seek? Will we knock? God says, if you do, I am your good Father, and I will give you good gifts. And then He says, so when you do that, then you do to others what you would have them do to you. And that really isn't about selfishness. Not really. It's about asking the deeper questions. What would I really want? And I think part of what we really want is to be understood, not commanded. Can we listen and understand one another better? I think part of what we want is to appreciate disagreement and know that not everybody has all the facts. In fact, none of us have all the facts. We're going to have disagreements. Uniformity is not the only direction that we can take. I think God would have us look into our hearts and realize that we are to respect one another's choices and to make those choices ourselves. We will make choices now. What choices will we make? Will we make choices that care for others? Or will we make choices that ignore the needs of others? And finally, will we remember humility? None of us have all the answers. None of us are perfect. All of us need grace. And now, in this time that we are facing together, will we remember to treat one another with humility? Yes, I think Jesus' words, the golden rule, can truly help us. Will you join me in putting this golden rule into practice?